All right, hello and welcome to our latest edition of Divorcing Dilemmas. If you are new to this forum, I'm Amanda Porter. I'm a family law attorney in Minnesota. And every month I like to interview an expert in a different area whose expertise people going through a divorce might find helpful, because there are a lot of needs beyond just the legal needs when you're going through a divorce. So this month we have with us Julie Court. Julie, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So Julie is a transformation coach and the author of a fabulous book called The Incredible Life Makeover that was written partially while she was going through her own divorce and partially outside of that, but just to try to help people get past trauma, whether it's from a divorce or really any of the major life stressors. Is that right?
Yeah, the book was how I learned a lot of the lessons was recovering from childhood abuse. And going through alcoholism as a child, and codependence, and then also an abusive and violent stepfather. Okay. And so there's I've undergone a lot of stressful and traumatic in my life. But what we're going to talk about today, I wrote while I was in the midst of the trauma of my own divorce and deciding what I wanted my response to look like.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted Julie to come talk to us this month, is because obviously even frankly, fairly amicable divorces can also be pretty traumatic, because it's the ending of this relationship that you had planned going a lot longer, and it's big upheavals. And so learning how to appropriately deal with that trauma so that it doesn't come up later and cause more problems is really important. And so I wanted her to come on and share some of the things that she's learned about dealing with that trauma, and that she can in turn hopefully share with you to help you get through this process better. So what we're talking about today, Julie, is you have 5 battle cries that you came up with. Is that right?
Yes, I had developed 5 battle cries, not because I was trying to come up with battle cries, but I needed battle cries.
Yeah.
In order to give myself some actual battle cries to stay in the divorce process, but not change who I was as a person. And so I'd like to cover 2 of those battle cries if we can quickly. And these are in chapter 8 of The Incredible Life Makeover. And they're for anyone. They are generically stated so that they are applicable to anyone who has gone through what I consider one of the top 10 stressors. And one of those is divorce.
Yes, definitely. One is that is a big one. Yeah, so that's great. So we don't have time to do all 5 in this format, but yeah, we're going to go through your kind of 2 top ones. And then if people are interested in more, you can always get the book and get all 5 of them. But yeah, what is the first battle cry that you want to share?
Okay, so the first battle cry came about because, like we said on the first program that we aired, I tried to go through my divorce with a spirit of forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be in a prison of unforgiveness. And I was also trying to stay out of the identity of being a victim. But one day I was out and I was crying and praying, and I said a statement as I'm praying and walking just under my breath. And I said, Lord, I forgive him for destroying my life. And it can feel like that other person has the power to destroy your life because of what they've decided, what they've done, and it might not be what you wanted. Or it might just be this divorce and the whole mess is destroying your life. And in my head, I hear what I felt was like the Lord say, no, he's only destroying the life that you thought you had, and he's ending your partnership. And then he said the phrase, only you can destroy your life. Mm. And I stopped walking. And that was a power sentence for me. And that power sentence, I began to realize that the deception of being a victim, I was feeling powerless and like he had the power to destroy my life. And I had to reject that. Yeah. And so battle cry number 1 actually says, with God's help, I will control my thoughts and words. And then the second part of it says, I will not accept a victim mentality.
No, that's so great, because you can't control what the other person does or says or acts or whatever. And so that's something a lot of people who are getting divorced or otherwise dealing with some of those, personality issues have to figure out, is how to best respond so that you're not completely giving them control, but you also aren't trying to control them, because that's an exercise in frustration.
Yeah, and sometimes they're controlling you by making you react in certain ways. They manipulate you. They
Yup.
make you try to be in fear.
Nobody knows where your buttons are better than an ex.
Exactly.
And absolutely, they know how to. And I've seen clients get to the point, whether they're working with a therapist or a coach or, just some of their own work, where they take, their ex no longer has that power. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing because they're like, oh, I don't have to react that way, and yeah, it can be very empowering. So that's great. Yeah. I think rejecting that victimhood mentality, because then you can start rebuilding your life and not just waiting for what the other person's going to do.
Well, and the other thing is if you keep your true identity and you think that you have like responsibility for your responses, you're going through your divorce, you're going to make wiser choices and you're going to be able to defend your rights. Whereas if you're in fear or you're operating like a victim or you're reacting in ways that would be negative, then you're really putting them at an advantage. And my goal was to not harm the other person, but just to represent my rights and my future well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Great, awesome. So what is the second battle cry that you wanted to share?
Yeah, well, this one also came out of a time when I was out walking and probably crying because I really did love my husband and it was hard for me to let him go. And so what happened that day was as I was walking, I really heard the Lord say, you need to step out of the shackles. And what had happened to me is that I didn't realize that my soul was linked with his soul. And so that means that my mind had been in contact with his thought process so long that I couldn't disconnect from his voice in my mind. I couldn't disconnect my love that was still there from what he was doing now and what he was, the person he had become like almost overnight, because ours was a situation where he had an affair and he had this ongoing relationship, behind the scenes. And so it was extremely like just a snap of a day. I woke up in the morning saying, good morning, love. And I woke up by 1 o'clock saying, I want a divorce. And so what happened is that I had to realize that, and so I want to encourage your audience that if they are in like this soul tie with their spouse, with that person they were married to, that you have to come to the place where that commitment and that connection was a good thing when you were married, but once that marriage is dead and that other person is moving on and you're in the midst of the divorce, you have to choose, because otherwise you're shackled to something that was dead and you can't have the right responses. Mm-hmm. And so the second battle cry is, with God's help, I will control my response to pain and trauma. And here's the thing that this like was a daily one, which is why I wanted to cover it. It says, I will not let this loss rob anything else from me. Because if we don't disconnect and get out of that shackle, and we don't stay in control of our identity and our responses, then we do destructive things.
Yeah.
Trying to get them back, or we do destructive things because we're not able to actually even hold down a job, or we get into alcoholism or whatever it is. And the loss, instead of being contained to this little thing, all of a sudden our responses, that trauma eclipses all of our relationships, our job, our church. I mean, and it just blows apart everything. And it doesn't have to be that way. I want to help people with transformation coaching to implement this so you don't let that loss destroy and eclipse everything else in your life.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing, is that, it was a big part of your life, obviously. And so certainly, cry some, grieve some, certainly. But then, at this point, it's like, okay, you've got to start moving on and not being tied to the other. I've seen that most commonly with women who just still are so worried about their ex that they can't take care of themselves and prioritize themselves. And it's good to obviously not want to hurt them or destroy them, but to the point where it's like, that's not your problem anymore. They need to figure that part out. You need to figure yourself out.
And it's really honoring their decision. It's honoring the process, but it's extremely hard to let go that tie in your mind, your will, and your emotions, and that's your soul. And I had to actually choose. I pleaded with Lord, I don't want out of these shackles. I didn't want this divorce. And he was like, you have to step out of the shackles. You're shackled to something dead. And so I just want to help as many women as possible to be able to go through that, like that hard choice of saying, you know what, I need to start separating myself from that, and to accept that I have to develop my own identity, my own point of view, and make my own decisions, get other people's feedback, yes, and follow the advice of my attorney, yes, pray about it, yes, whatever you do as your coping mechanisms to begin to make those on your own, but you have to separate from your soul realm. Otherwise, you're seeing this whole thing. I mean, and I did it too for a while. What was best for him? And now I'm not into destroying my ex,
Right.
but I have to be able to consider my own welfare and what's good and right and fair.
Right. It's finding that balance between not being vindictive, but not being, well, you just give him everything and take nothing. And that's not right either. And it's finding that balance, which hopefully if you have a good attorney that can help you, supportive friends and family can help you. And then certainly if you're watching this and you need extra help, Julie's a transformation coach and be happy to help you with that. Therapy can also be helpful in trying to figure out what sort of boundaries you need. Just depending on what sort of resources you need, there's a lot of different ones out there. Because it's not easy. Nobody's saying that, well, if you just say these 2 battle cries are all 5, well, just like that, you'll be fine. It's a process, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, thank you so much for coming on, Julie. So if you are watching and you were interested in learning more about those or the other free battle cries that we didn't have time, please go to Julie's website. Depending on where you're watching this, it's either below or to the sides of the video. And so you can check out more information about her book or about her if you're interested in transformation coaching, and just learn more about how to get through the divorce as little trauma as possible, or having the trauma appropriately contained to the area it should be in so it doesn't destroy your entire life. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. And I hope that they'll contact me at New Life for Today. And there's books and there's transformation coaching. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.